It's not in the face! Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Hey, Not the Face with your host, John Nash, and your producer, me, Steffi Haynes. And today we are going to discuss all sorts of news that has hit the waves over the past week. We're going to look at Donald Trump's investment in TKO. We're going to look at what type of military recruit they want to attend the White House card. We're going to talk about revenue streams and Eddie Hearn trying to get Tom Aspinall out of his UFC contract. We're even going to talk some boxing and Shakur Stevenson and a little bit of retro action. We're going to talk about GSP. But before we get into all of those topics, I would advise new listeners to pick up a paid subscription because all of our episodes come in two parts. There's a free section and a paywalled section. So we divide each episode in half. So you get the first half for free, but the second half you got to pony up a couple of bucks for. So I would highly recommend that you do that so you have access to the entire episode. Now, John, how the heck are you?
I'm stumped. Stumped for an answer to that one. That's a tough question. Why do you always get the tough ones right away?
I can't help it. I got to get your brain flowing right off the bat.
Yeah. No, I'm fairly good. The weather's nice here in Minnesota. I'm a little, I guess, a little stir crazy with my mom. I cannot see. My girlfriend is out nearby, but I can't see her because she can't drive down because she has an inner ear thing, and so there's a little frustration, overflowing here in the Nash household.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you get that all worked out.
Oh, yeah. But no, it's, besides that, everything's great. I can't complain. Although I just did, but I can't. But I just did.
I got to talk to you about something real quick before we jump into the show proper. I am kind of disappointed in Mr. Martin Scorsese.
What, are you insane?
I am not.
No,
what he's partnered with a generative AI company and is already using AI in his for his upcoming movies and such, because he's using them for pre-visuals and storyboards instead of like paying storyboard creators now. And I get that he's saying I'm just using it for this right now. But there's two problems with that, in my opinion. And the first problem is that, we've already started giving one of the positions the heave-ho with storyboard creators. And maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe, he goes a little further and starts using it for other things because movie makers are always looking for ways to cut corners. And then the second problem with it is a person of Martin Scorsese's stature, his caliber. I mean, he's a multi-award winning movie maker. Like, he is the movie maker. When you think of a great, you think of him. And I feel like he's maybe trailblazing a path that should not be cut. You know what I mean? There should not be this path for others to follow, for others to think, well, Martin Scorsese says it's okay, it's okay. Like, he's not just using the tools. He partnered with a generative AI company. He's an investor now.
Yeah, well, okay, one, it's hard for me to comment on because I haven't read the articles or anything. Two, I mean, as much as AI can, freaks me out about certain things, and my job is probably going to be gone in a couple of years, it's kind of hard to stop technology, the advancement of technology. And there's some things, AI is going to make some things better. It's going to make some jobs more productive. It's going to actually create more work. At the same time, it's a human substitute, so it might actually just replace a ton of our work and make it too easy and get rid of a bunch of us from work. So I have my reservations about its possible use, that it's possibly not been regulated properly, that there's not enough that we might be like the Luddites, who people miss the true story of the Luddites, is the Luddites did not oppose technological advancement. What they opposed is being displaced by technology and being thrown out onto the streets of England at the time with no backup, no social security, no pay, nothing. And so that's kind of my concern with what might happen with AI. But it's hard for me to say, without reading more about it. But at the same time, it's also, it's also hard to say how he uses this, because if it's immediate use of storyboards, right, you're not going to have a storyboard artist do that. If he's doing stuff on the fly, that's one thing. So I'd have to see more on the story before I could actually make a comment.
Sure. And see, this is why I talk to you.
But I could know it. I should know one thing though. Scorsese's famous for doing his own storyboards. I don't think he hires a storyboard artist.
Ah, okay. Well, your brother, I had a little bit of a conversation earlier with your brother about it, and he said something similar. So, Oh,
look at that. That's probably why he's my brother. Thinks the same.
Yes. But I always like to talk to you too, because I feel like you give me insight, like especially in the entertainment industry, that I wouldn't get anywhere else, which is why I frequently start our shows like that, because I feel like it's an interesting topic and something that other people would probably want to hear an answer to. And so I'm glad to hear from you that, one, I did not know he did his own storyboard. So, he's not maybe displacing a bunch of people. And he did say pre-visuals.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I can, for the film entertainment industry that I can share with people, I can give them tips on what's the best day for crafty. That's about it. That's my level.
That is not his level. He lies. He's been in the business and the industry for 20 plus years, or almost 30 years, right?
30 years exactly now. But yeah, in post-production, it's not like I'm hanging out with the stars.
Okay, that's not true too. You've met tons of stars, and you worked with Roger Corman directly.
Yes, but that was 30 years ago.
So what?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate the accolades you're throwing my way. So
see, there you go. Now, I guess we should get down to the brass tacks of the show. And as always, I'm going to start like I usually do. Are there any new updates or filings to the UFC antitrust cases?
Well, there is. Just in time, because coming up tomorrow is a new status conference. So hopefully I will not be there, because obviously I'm in Minnesota taking care of my mom. It's my turn. It's my tour of duty for that. So I will not be in Vegas, but hopefully we will have a roving reporter there tomorrow that can give us an update after the fact. It should be a good one tomorrow. But the filings that we have are several. There's actually a bunch of filings. One was a bunch of people asking for remote access. Tomorrow's status conference. Most of them were attorneys for the various firms, for the defendants, that is, which suggests that, they view it as probably important. The others several of them were also people representing antitrust media. I didn't know that there's a whole industry of antitrust media out there. They wanted to attend, but usually the judge shoots that down. So we'll see if he grants them remote access, in which I will be kicking myself that I did not ask for remote access, because Judge Boulware never grants it except that one time. But beyond that, there was several other filings. There was pursuant to the the May 18th just happened court order. The defendants have been submitting their forensic reports of mobile devices belonging to the various executives and custodians, I should add. And these reports are on Excel spreadsheets, and they can't be e-filed. So they've notified the court that they've been submitted via flash drive to the clerk's desk. And they're also not, that way they're not available to us, the public, either. And then the other documents they filed was a Zuffa TKO declaration from Lorraine Moyes. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Or Mose, not quite certain, a digital forensics expert who explained the methodology used to identify messaging apps on the devices belonging to Zuffa. These are devices, amongst them was Lawrence Epstein's, Reed Harris, Mark Ratner's, Mark Shapiro, and David Shaw, and others. So she lists the specific apps her team reviewed. Then there was a declaration from Endeavor from the same person. It was a parallel declaration supporting Endeavor Group Holdings filing of forensic reports for its two custodians, Jason Lublin and Patrick Whitesell. And the list of apps reviewed is redacted in this version, so we can't see what apps they had. There's also Endeavor's notice of manual filing. This was the formal notice that they're filing the flash drive. And then Zuffa did the same thing. And then there was a motion to seal asking for all this information to be sealed for us, the public, not to be able to see. So we have all that was filed the last few days. In addition, there is a separate case going on. And that might be one of the reasons why they asked to seal the apps for the Whitesell and Lublin from Endeavor. And the reason is that there is this case being done with the WWE lawsuit, right? And that's been covered pretty well by Post Wrestling with Pollock and Brandon Thurston. Those guys do a great job. So most of my information I got on the WWE case I got from them. But there's a lawsuit which is set to go to trial in the Delaware court on June 8th, just coming up, and it alleges that Vince McMahon led an unfair transaction to secure a role in the soon-to-be-formed TKO Group Holdings. Now, we've discussed this in the past, how it seems like there might have been some sort of shenanigans, our favorite word, done by Endeavor to make sure Vince McMahon stayed on board so he could organize a sale of the company or a merger for a merger with UFC to create TKO. And the defendants in that case are Vince McMahon, Paul Levesque, which is Triple H, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Khan, George Barrios, and Michelle Wilson. And so the judge, Travis Laster, he ruled in favor of Brandon Thurston of Post Wrestling. He's the guy who challenged the confidential treatment, including the voicemail of Ari Emanuel, which we discussed, I think, a week ago. The voicemail of Ari Emanuel, and they sent to Vince McMahon. And so the defendants tried to keep stuff sealed. This is according to Post Wrestling. The defendants attempted to block disclosure of personal identifiable information. Makes sense. That seems to be allowable. They did try to block deposition questions regarding Wall Street Journal reporting and its source regarding Vince McMahon's sexual misconduct claims. And then the NATO files of Emmanuel's voicemail. And so Thurston waived the personal information when he requested this and challenged the other two. And so the judge rejected the defendant's arguments. The judge asked for confidentiality in less than 60 lines of deposition testimony from, I believe it was like a 300, 400-page transcript. And so we got that out, and so they made that public. And so what's going on now, if you go through, there's a whole bunch of this opened up another can of worms, because not only is there this case, right? Earlier that week, I should say, Laster had issued a 41-page opinion imposing sanctions on defendant Vince McMahon and Nick Khan for spoliation of confidential information as it pertained to the case. And so that draws in, because that spoliation issue involved Endeavor and as part of their merger to be in TKO Group Holdings. And so some of that has been brought forth into our Johnson v. Zuffa antitrust case. And so there's actually a long list of issues going on within WWE, and I'll try to summarize really quickly for people. The court, in addition to issuing that 41-page opinion, finding that Vince McMahon, Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, Stephanie McMahon, and Brad Bloom all used Signal's auto-delete function, which wiped out messages they had legal duty to preserve. Doesn't that sound familiar? Mm-hmm. And then so Signal is an encrypted app that's an encrypted app that lets the user set messages to auto-disappear after a chosen time interval. And so as a sanction, the court will treat 5 damaging facts as presumptively true at trial. And the defendants must now disprove these claims by clear and convincing evidence, which they probably don't have because they deleted it, a higher standard than what's normally applies in civil litigation. And I should note, this is pretty much what the plaintiffs are actually asking for more. But this is similar to what the plaintiffs in the Johnson v. Zuffa case is asking Judge Boulware to do. They want sanctions against the UFC because of their spoliation issue. And in this case, what they did to WWE, the 5 facts that they declared is that Emanuel's promise, that being Ari Emanuel, TKO, Emanuel's promise to provide Vince with a continued role at any post-merger company influenced Vince's decision-making with respect to the merger. That's one thing they have to presume, the jury, that Emanuel's offer of indemnification and other legal support related to pending federal investigation of Vince's alleged misconduct influenced Vince's decision-making, that Vince decided to pursue a transaction with Endeavor in 2022 before the company initiated a formal strategic review process, that Khan communicated with Emanuel between August and December 2022 to facilitate a deal between WWE and Endeavor, and that Vince and Khan worked with advisement firm Rain, which again is another name that comes up a lot in the UFC antitrust case, that they worked with advisement firm Rain to steer the process towards Endeavor and away from other potential bidders. So that's what they're going to instruct the jury to basically take those 5 statements and consider basically fact true on behalf of the plaintiffs. And so there's a damning timeline that comes with this too. The most striking part of the opinion that Laster detailed is a reconstruction of when auto-delete settings were changed and how closely each change coincided with key events in the case. And this is, again, we don't have this in the Johnson v. Zuffa case, but you might be able to imagine this might be similar to what's happening in the Johnson case because of all the spoliations with the cell phones. But both Nick Khan and Bloom changed their auto-delete intervals for their signal chats with McMahon on the very same day, August 5th, 2022. That's the day that federal prosecutors sent WWE a request for information about McMahon's alleged misconduct. Khan manually set his messages with McMahon to delete after 1 hour. The preceding day, Bloom had done the same thing. I don't want to put words in everybody's mouth, but that seems a little damning. Okay.
A little.
Then on August 10th, 2022, the day of a lunch between McMahon, Emanuel, Khan, and Stephanie McMahon to discuss a potential WWE Endeavor deal, Stephanie manually changed the auto-delete settings for her signal chat with Vince to delete messages after 1 hour. This was despite a legal hold notice that had been issued to the executives on June 21st, 2022. Again, I want to stop just to credit Post-Wrestling for this material. This is all Post-Wrestling I got this from, because as much as I kind of follow this case, this is their version of our antitrust case, something they're just immersed in. And it's very helpful because as much as we deep dived into the antitrust case, the UFC antitrust case, they deep dive into the Post-Wrestling. And because there's an overlap now, because there's the same executives in the spoliation issues, there's a lot we can draw on from each other. And so on November 21st, 2022, Khan changed his auto-delete settings multiple times for his signal message with McMahon before setting on a 1 hour auto-delete. On January 3rd, 2023, the day the WWE board reiterated that it would not be in the company's best interest for Vince to return, Vince called Emanuel 3 times, and that same day, Khan manually changed his auto-delete setting for his chat with Vince to delete messages after 3 hours. 2 days later, on January 5th, 2022, the day McMahon executed his return to the WWE board, Khan changed more auto-delete settings. So, and then the final one, on January 13th, 2023, the day McMahon signed a settlement agreement regarding sexual misconduct claims, McMahon himself changed auto-delete settings for his signal chats with both Khan and Paul Levesque. And so on top of that, if we want to keep going with this, we have a show to do, but I like this case so much. I'm going to keep going. McMahon and Khan's, they had some replies that didn't help them at all during this case. McMahon testified in his deposition, "I was always told about the signal and it's good for business because no one can trace you and so forth. It's kind of like the email platform Proton. You can't find out much about the call or the text." And then the Langus exchange in particular was notable. At one point, Khan sent McMahon a text that simply said, "Langus, which is Signal spelled backwards, and seemingly instructing McMahon to use Signal instead of a conventional text. And then both McMahon and Khan claimed in their deposition to have no idea what the word meant, which last year character is notably strange. Now, I don't know what article Pollock, I think it was either Brandon or Thurston or Pollock had on Post Wrestling, but it's hilarious that they said that they have a screen grab of the text saying Langus to McMahon and going, what the hell does that mean? And then someone had to spell it out to him, read it backwards. And it seems like what they were trying to communicate at the time is that they were telling them, don't do this over phone text. Let's go to Signal to talk about this because obviously their Signal was encrypted. No one could get a hold of it. And it was set to delete. That seems to be the implication. So the destroyed evidence in this case, this hilariously destroyed messages, the use of Signal, is central to the shareholders' core theory that McMahon steered the WWE merger deal to his longtime friend, Ari Emanuel, not because it was the best deal for shareholders, but because Emanuel offered McMahon something no other bidder would, a continued position with the WWE despite the scandal surrounding him, and help with federal investigations into his alleged sexual misconduct. And so that's why we're there on that case. And I'm people that listen to the show a long time and are familiar with these spoliation issues of the UFC case, the Johnson v. Zuffa, and the other attached cases, related cases. I am sure you read that, you can fully understand why the plaintiffs are perhaps a little suspicious of why the phones and text messages and everything are missing in the UFC case. And it should be noted that if the shareholders prevail, they could be awarded anywhere from $466 million to $957 million. That's what they are asking for, and the trial should start next week. June 8th through June 12th is when it's set for.
Langus. I'm surprised it didn't come out to Ignose Essaging me.
I thought it was going to be Colonel Langus.
My goodness, it just gets better and better. Wow. So what is next? We have the status conference tomorrow. What is the status conference tomorrow for? This is spoliation and anything else?
Yeah, I think it's I believe it's spoliation. It could be the judge. Last I remember, the judge had some comments. I think there might be some arguments over possible sanctions tomorrow. I do not think they're going to go over. I'm not quite certain exactly what tomorrow is going to have, but I have to go back over all my notes, back over all the filings. But it's something noteworthy is happening. Let me put it that way. There's also at the end of the month, I believe it's a 3-day period from the 29th to the 1st. From June 29th to the 1st of July, there's going to be a 3-day hearing where the court's bringing in. I think that's where the court make their final spoliation determinations. And so that will probably be a big time deal as well. Now, I'm hoping I can go there for that one, those 3 days. It just depends if my brother's schedule works that he can come over and hang out with my mom. But if not, we will get, I am sure we can get a roving reporter. We will get Alessandro Gelke or someone to be in attendance for us.
Well, all right. Now let's move on, because late last week, it was revealed that Donald Trump invested in TKO. Why is that a problem?
Well, not everything's a problem, man. The guy likes UFC. Let him put some money where what he likes. No big deal. It's okay. In one way, people are kind of overreacting because President Trump, what he purchased is between $15,001 and $50,000 of stock in TKO Group Holdings, which is, of course, everybody knows the parent company of the UFC. And that was purchased on March 25th, according to the recent May 12th financial disclosure filing. This is notable because the purchase was reportedly made less than 3 weeks after the White House UFC event had been finalized and publicly announced. That's the big note of what everybody's making a big deal of. And obviously, the other big deal, it's a conflict of interest. The conflict of interest concerns that there's a planned Freedom 250 fight on June 14th. That's Flag Day. and obviously they're not holding it there because it's Trump's birthday. And will generate massive publicity for TKO, which everybody, including their executives on earnings call, says will potentially boost the stock, which now Trump owns. So this is where ethics watchdogs come in. They are sharply critical. There was Jordan Libowitz of the Citizens for Responsibility. I think that's the name of the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, in Washington said, I have a quote here in front of me: using the White House to promote a company whose stock you brought while promoting it is one of the worst conflicts of interest you can imagine. Okay. So that's the uproar. People are starting to focus on that. But as you'll note, it's a small amount of stock. As Dr. Oz said at the White House today, Trump probably doesn't, he doesn't choose his own stock. Someone else is doing it. That might be true. But publicly, it's an issue because the ethics principle, right? That's the big issue, is the ethics. It just does not look good. Now, there's a bigger problem beyond that, because as we know, Trump and this administration has, even with transactions that are multiples, they don't seem to care what ethics watchdog groups say, right? The buying of shares, the sons with the company that are related to the White House, none of that seems to irk the White House at all. They seem very willing to engage in such conflicts of interest. So I don't imagine they're too concerned about this. But here's the problem. One is this event is extremely public, right? And I think the public is kind of focusing on this in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. And so there's potentially two bad things. One is this might break through where other conflicts of interest investments that he's engaged in haven't. The other is it also might tarnish the UFC in some way. And you can see that because there does seem to be a lot more scrutiny of the UFC's business practices based on this. And I should note, I've been contacted by several members of the media, mainstream media, who are looking into this and wanted to ask me questions. I have not spoken to them yet. But obviously people if the people in the MMA media industry, the reporters that cover the UFC are getting contacted by outside media, that means something is broken through. And here, I think this is the bigger problem for the UFC, even than for the White House, is the UFC there's going to be potentially scrutiny on them because of their close ties to the White House. And it should be noted, too, even though that's the president's investment, we don't know what his family members are doing. We don't know how much additional has been invested by Don Jr. Or anybody else, how much has been invested since that into the UFC. So we have a small sliver of the total family investment here. So it's possible that a lot more money has been invested. But the big thing is CNN, mainstream articles, I expect all of them in the next week to be looking into this, which could potentially tarnish or paint the UFC in a light, especially when they're trying to appeal to more wider mainstream audience. And also at a time when they're trying to push the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Reform Act through Congress. There is a chance, and I don't say for sure, it's 100% chance, but there is a chance that the scrutiny could lead Democrats, especially in the Senate, to pull any sort of support. And if they can't get 7 Democrats to support it on top of the 53 Republicans in the Senate, then the bill can't pass. So there is a chance that if this does escape into the mainstream, the idea that the UFC and Donald Trump, or I should say TKO and Donald Trump, have some sort of insider dealing going on, backroom channel deals going on, that might compel, just through the public scrutiny, Democrats not to support the American Boxing Reform Act, which would be, I'm sure, would not make TKO happy. Because I'm sure that there is some part of their stock price. The reason it's rising is people expect them to do it with boxing, what they've done with MMA and pro wrestling.
Well, all right. Now, internal memos show the Pentagon is trying to recruit a certain type of military troop to attend the White House card. Further, they want those troops to pay for their own travel to the card. Could the UFC eat those costs and stay in the black? Because, The Pentagon only wants a specific body type. So if they have to travel from here, there, and everywhere, can the UFC afford to eat the costs?
Well, yeah, I think the UFC makes so much money they could easily afford it. Now the question is, how many troops are going to have there? Because I think they said at one point it would be 4,000. 43. No, but isn't 4,300 the total number of people in attendance live at the White House, and that a percentage of them would be U.S. troops? So it'd be smaller than that. That was my way I read it. So I'm not certain. I think it's under half. So around 2,000, let's say, are going to be U.S. troops. UFC could easily afford, even several $1,000 package for every soldier. No, it just, I'm not surprised about this, because if you remember when they had the parade,
they did the same thing.
They did the same thing. Also, Hegseth has that as well, where he wants his men in the military to look lean, mean, and apparently sexy. There's nothing homoerotic about his request. So that's he has that interest, and I'm a little disturbed the fact that it reminds me of Putin, and also I guess Stalin, especially after World War II. Stalin kicked out all the amputees from the war because he did not want them, I guess, demoralizing the Soviet public, which is disturbing as hell considering what they sacrificed to win that war. But that's, it's a little troublesome to me, the idea of the stories have reported that the idea they're looking for the most fit soldiers to an image, but that probably doesn't include those with scarring, those sitting in the VA hospital in recovery, amputees and stuff before. So I think that would be, for PR win, I think that would give you the best PR win possible, is having it filled with those soldiers that have traumatic injuries. But it looks like they are looking for
To access the bonus content of this episode, you must be a paid subscriber. To do that, go to heynottheface.substack.com and subscribe today.
Ow! Ow! Not the face! Ooh! Ooh! Okay, the face!